Back to the area and get to play in front of some people I know pretty well. But at the same time, all my focus is on Cal and in the game.
Sure. Now, who's all coming?
A lot of people from home, from high school, and a lot of members of my family from the Bay Area.
Now, how often do you talk to your dad about how you played, game planning? Because I know you guys are pretty close.
Yeah, we're real close, but we don't talk about game planning that much. It's more just catching up, and I know I like to hear how his team's doing, and he likes to hear how practice is going. But it's when he was coaching me, when we were at practice, he was coach, and when we were at home, he was dad, and that's kind of the way it is now.
You talk about the wide receivers, of course, a lot, but talk a little bit about the tight ends. The fact that Connor's not going to be there, and I guess Caleb with certain practice today, but we're hoping he's okay. What about Clute and what about Perry, of guys who can step up?
Yeah, I think they're guys. They made a lot of plays for us this year. Tyler. Had a 2-point play earlier in the season. He's a guy that we feel real comfortable with, and Kellen's a guy who's a real good athlete, great route runner. He's really been working hard on his blocking. I think he's a great blocker, now as well. So a lot of versatility in that group, and I think unfortunately with Connor, not being able to play this week, I think it'll be good to see kind of guys step up and really work on our depth.
Have you ever held for a place kicker?
I have not. I've never done that. Coach Reed had me work on it for a little bit, but it didn't stick.
Well, I was going to get to Trevor Romaine and his beard. Have you ever seen, kind of like Brian Wilson of the Giants, isn't he?
A little bit, yeah. I'd say Brian Wilson of the Giants. Brent Burns of the San Jose Sharks has a pretty nasty one. It's getting pretty close to that.
It's not a Penner playoff beard.
No, yeah, exactly.
Is he cut from a different cloth, or is it just, he's a place kicker?
No, he is. Yeah, he's a pretty good guy, a real good guy. He's a fun guy to be around on the team. People always joke that specialists, a little different, but he's just one of the guys. All our specialists are, and it's fun hanging out with all of them. So, great guy, and obviously a great kicker as well.
And he made a tackle.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a kicker make more. He's really willing to get in there in coverage, which is nice to see.
Last thing for me, what's the Cal defense story?
I think they're a team with a lot of athletes, real good up front. They got a lot of big bodies that play hard. So we'll keep looking at them. But initial impression is a real athletic group with a good front.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, no problem.
Sean,
Like that Brent Burns.
Right? Yeah, that was pretty solid, Sean. You talked about going home, and I know you don't like to play up the romance of a game all that much. But Teron talked about how growing up, Cal was. They had the Deshaun Jacksons, the Marshawn Lynch. Was that a team that you grew up watching as a fan of?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't call myself a huge, Cal fan growing up. I was a big Niner fan. I don't know if I really followed, the Bay Area colleges all that closely. I know they were always on TV because they were local, and my dad would always be watching them. But I'll never forget when Marshawn Lynch was driving the golf cart around on the field. I forget who they beat that game, but they're definitely a team that I watched a little bit growing up in a local school.
This is your first time playing at Memorial Stadium. Did you have any memories of that place as a kid? I know you said you really weren't a huge fan, but
I think I went to a camp or two there as a kid. I think the only time I've actually seen a football game there was actually after I was committed. I came when Oregon State played there, so I saw the game when Quiz and James were playing, Sean Canfield was playing. So
last 2 games, you guys have 2 more rushing yards than you did in the first 4 games combined. Do you feel like you're moving toward that balance you guys have been talking about over the past few weeks?
Yeah, I think so. It's something we've been working at. Like I've said before, it's not something we're going to drive ourselves crazy over. Because there's a lot of elements of our passing game that we feel are similar to runs. But it is good to see kind of that improvement gradually, and I think it's something that we'll continue to work on.
In terms of the next step, is it just a matter of not just, I know the blocking is something you talked about before, is it just with Teron and Storm or Chris Rivers back there hitting the holes harder, being a little bit more patient? What do you see on film?
Yeah, I don't think it's really any one thing. I think really at anything you're going to get better the more you practice with it, and I think it's just a matter of getting more and more reps at it throughout 1 week to the next, and like you said, we've been getting better and better, and I think it's a trend we want to keep seeing.
So I apologize if this was already asked, but 2 of the top quarterbacks in the country 40 miles apart are playing, and your name's starting to come up in some Heisman talk. I know you're a humble guy, but You know, any thoughts on that at all, or is that just more a reflection on what the team has done?
It's definitely a reflection on the team. You know, anything that I'm able to do on the field, it's all because of my teammates and coaches, and you know, it's obviously a huge honor to even be kind of mentioned in that. It's not something I think about or worry about or look into very much, but you know, I think if anything, it's all about my teammates and what they've enabled me to do.
You were in a pretty well known and highly publicized quarterback competition before the season started. Can you talk a little bit about that journey from there to here and putting up these monster numbers?
You know, I think at the time I was just trying not to really think about, you know, the whole competition thing. I was just trying to be the best player that I could be and let the rest take care of itself. You know, I think whether I knew it or not at the time, I think you know, the competition made me a better player. I know when I think about where I am now and where I was, you know, at the beginning of camp, I definitely feel like I made a lot of improvements. So, you know, it's something that you know, I think it's helped me grow.